Good morning, everybody. Today you're going to get two videos because I finally got to record one yesterday in the middle of the day and then did not get a chance to post it. So I'll post that this morning and this one later this afternoon. So congratulations on two videos. But the reason I didn't get to do that was because in the morning yesterday was some small children running around the house before I even was out of the shower. So they were keeping me busy during the time I usually get to post these or create these. So anyway, so that's what happened yesterday, but no big deal. We're kind of back on track today. Everybody is still sleeping at the moment, so we'll see if that lasts. I think that I'm going to move these a little bit into not just little updates at my house, but talking a little bit about some of the soapboxes of information that I always like to get out to parents and never seem to find time to do long rants on in an organized fashion. But since I have your captive attention for the most part now, I think we'll start doing that. So that's exciting. Tomorrow will be one of my topics that are normally on there, but today I wanted to talk a little bit about the importance of keeping a schedule. And I think that you guys probably know a lot or seen a lot about that recently, but the importance of keeping a schedule and the importance of flexibility both at the same time and kind of being able to gauge that with kids. So I was going to talk through our daily schedule a little bit and then tell you some ways that we flex within there and then what happens when we do things like 2 days ago we went fishing and it took out our whole middle of the day time and our schedule for that. So our schedule right now is that we get up and do all of our breakfasty, brushing teeth. Okay, I shouldn't be wishy-washy on this. They need to get breakfast and they need to brush their teeth and they need to get dressed for the day before 9 o'clock and our other scheduled time hits. If they are done with that and they have not made a giant mess of somewhere else or have just left things a way that they shouldn't have left them, then they have some free time to do some other things. We just got a trampoline, so they really wanted to do that yesterday, and they had a couple minutes. But my goal is to get, going to have some older kids at home, and they really have some big academic things they need to accomplish these days. So 9 to 10 is academic time, and we want to do that first thing in the morning. I've seen a lot of schedules suggest to start with active time, and that's great if that works better for you. I think there's a lot of good reasons to do that. The reason we don't do that is because coming back from that focus is somewhat frustrating. And so if we start off with the kind of biggest part of the day of getting those academics out of the way, then we're in a better boat. So the other piece of that then is that the my youngest is 5, that her academics can look very different. Next oldest is 6, and her kindergarten goals often look a little bit more flexible than the 10 and 15-year-olds. So making sure that they kind of have some flexibility. Now, again, I'm trying to run 4 schedules of the school stuff that's come down. So we've downloaded some more academic games onto devices, and the 5-year-old sometimes gets to do that, and the 6-year-old, if we can accomplish her other stuff off screens, then she gets to do that some too. So I don't love screen time, but sometimes it is what is necessary to make the whole household function. So we made sure that those were definitely trackable and scalable and scaffoldable, and those are all big words for little people, but games that they have at their fingertips. But yesterday we did a lot of writing in shaving cream and writing in flour, writing letters and writing words, and those are super academic things, but also, was really fun. Something that they played with more of the rest of the day too. So that academic time, and again, for those younger kids, academic time can be building with Legos and coloring and a lot of things that are through play. But I really want to get a big chunk of that out of the way for the older kids. At 10 o'clock, they have outside time. Outside time can be also switched for an app like Go Noodle or some other sort of exercisey thing that they do inside. This is a great time in your life to figure out some cool ways to build obstacle courses. but getting that movement time next. I really want them to, it's a long stint to have a whole hour of doing some of the other stuff. So they can't do screens during outside time. They don't usually feel like they need to, but unless we're doing, like an app to do exercise. Sometimes they can make some negotiations on that with me. Again, the goal is exercisey, but that's a good time for some other need that came up and needs to happen because they just learned about this thing or just really wanted to do X, Y, and Z. So they can sometimes trade that time. But the 15-year-old, often doesn't like our schedule or some of my requirements of the day. And outside is one of those sometimes, except that he can take his cell phone outside and do what he was going to do outside. Again, if there's like a coloring project they wanted to do, then do that, but do it out. Let's do it outside. Those kind of things. So I don't have to usually have too much flexibility on going outside if I can have flexibility on what they take outside. And though I want it to be exercise and, doing your phone outside and doing coloring outside is an exercise, the benefits of being outside are huge. So you got to pick that trade-off, and you got to make that the point of why we're doing any of the things. Why are we getting the academic stuff out of the way, and why are we in very early, and why are we going outside? You've got to kind of be able to articulate your own whys behind any sort of schedule piece, and then follow through with those whys, which is where you kind of get some of that flexibility. So that's 10 to 11. At 11, I want them to take a break from that one, just making sure I'm checking in on them and they're not getting too far into something that maybe we are going to have time or have trouble switching later, but also just to get them inside for a second as it gets hotter. I know today isn't a good example of that, but it's a good example of needing to sometimes warm up for a minute, but just a quick check-in with them. And they have to do chores at 11. Their chores are a house chore and a room chore. Or if they really don't want to do chores, sometimes there's a big protest, and their other option is to write a letter to someone. There's a lot of good research out there about gratitude, and there's a lot of good research out there about helping, and they're very similar kind of brain things on how it adjusts your thinking. And the house chores are things like going around the house and gathering up water bottles, moving the laundry over one step, which doesn't necessarily mean you have to do a whole lot of folding or whatever. You just got to move something in, something out, I guess something out, and then something in, and then something in. But or they can unload or load the dishwasher. Those count as two separate chores. But usually I've done a lot of those things already. And I just pick something that needs done to ask them to do. But they do have a list of things that they can choose from if they haven't been done. So I mentioned gathering water bottles up from the house. This is like a constant thing for us, and it takes them 35 seconds. The goal of the chore isn't that it takes them a long time. The goal for me here is that they are participating and helping with the household in general. So, and then the room chore is, it might be just straightening your room, but it might be I folded some laundry and that needs to go in your room and get put away correctly. It could be a lot of things, and for sure if their room is relatively clean and I don't really feel like them going through their little buckets of all of the toys that are unsorted that day, they can get excused from that, and we move on with life. But chore time is hopefully taking 10 to 15 minutes, really not very long in our house. Other people, that might be a thing that lasts longer. For the most part, if kids feel successful at accomplishing chores, I find them not too protesty of that happening at a specific time in the day. And then also, there's certainly some other motivating factors like allowance or other rewards that can happen for doing the chores. So after they accomplish that, though, they have free time until 12:15 when we're going to do lunch. So if your lunchtime is earlier, you might want to adjust things. I think free time until lunch is really nice because free time is a hard thing to come off of, but lunch is usually something that they want, and by 12:15 they're pretty ready to eat it. So I try to set that up when we're going to have that super fun time that we have, something that is enjoyable to come to. Chores, the time before that, coming to chores from outside time is not as easy as a transition, but again, chores are pretty short in our house, and they know that free time is afterwards. That free time as listed on our schedule is not electronic free time, so you can do anything you want. This is the time of the day where I try to bring out some sort of new activity if they seem like they have kind of been worn down on the other things. So we've talked about some of the cup stacking, um, or you know, have a million games on the shelf or those kind of things. But as I go to the grocery store, I tend to just pick up a couple of things, and I have a pile in my room of, you know, I don't know, Twister is in there right now. There's some sort of burrito dodgeball game I picked up. I don't know how cool that's going to be yet. I'll let you know once we get to opening it. I bought some new nail polish. We have 3 girls in the house, so that'll be fun one day. So I just have a myriad of things that, you know, as they seem like they're not having some more ideas for free time. And you don't need to go to the store and buy new things. You know, all these things were just things I saw and picked up, but didn't just hand out then all at one day, and kind of save them up. So, but that's usually the time that I bring those out. 12:15 is lunchtime. If you finish lunch, then you can have more free time. For the most part, these kids getting their hands washed and coming to the table, and you know, they always go get their own plates and things. They might fill them in the kitchen, depending on what we're having, or they might fill them at the table. They need to get their own plates and silverware, and they need to get their own cups, and they need to get their own drinks. There's a lot of, you know, me helping with pouring or getting from the fridge sometimes, but whatever pieces of that they can do, they need to do. And then, so between all of that and sitting down for lunch and then actually accomplishing eating the things that they should eat, usually takes us until about 1 o'clock. I think yesterday we ended at 5 minutes early, and they really want to go out and jump on the trampoline, which is fine if you finish meal times. You're welcome to move on with the day in our house. And that might not be the same thing for your house. If you need to stay till the end of the meal, everybody's expected to be at the meal together. You don't have to eat, but you do have to stay. And once other people start cleaning up, then you can move on. At 1 o'clock, we have reading time or resting time, or I also listed as a siesta time on our calendar there. So a couple of the older kids have some academic goals they have to accomplish also at 1 o'clock. But the youngest for sure needs to rest, so she needs to take that rest time. Usually in her bed. We definitely try and offer some opportunities for rest times outside. I don't care if you're doing books and reading outside, as long as your voices are off and you are doing the resting, or inside on the couch. So we do that, but for that youngest, you know, when it's not successful at one day or bedtime hasn't gone well the night before, then she needs some of that extra rest, and we try to encourage that to be in a bed. I don't mind if it's in my bed. Sometimes that makes them feel cooler, and that's fine. And then the 6-year-old also sometimes still needs that rest time, and so how that happens. But I really want them, you know, I talk to them a lot during that time about taking a break from everything else with their brains. So yeah, that's also not a screen time available option. And you know, they can read or they can rest. Sometimes I'll offer coloring as a restful activity also, in your bed or on the couch or whatever. But we talk a lot about getting comfy and being restful. And so, you know, a lot of that for my kids is kind of enforcing some of the physicalness of that. So where are you sleeping or resting, and like how is your body positioned, because they will get themselves into uncomfortable positions too, you know, that keep them more awake, and just teaching them those skills about how to rest is really important for them. Additionally, you know, they can always have water, but at rest times they cannot have ice, and particularly crunched ice, because they use it to keep themselves awake. So again, that's a physical change to their environment that I have to recognize as an adult and then put that on there. But I can be flexible within that. They can get water, they can get a cup, they can get a water bottle, they can, you know, a lot of other things to have that water. Um, and you know, what I can be flexible on, we definitely are. After rest time, which is from 1 to 2. Then at 2, some of the kids have another option. Usually the youngest is still sleeping, but until 3, if I can make the house quiet enough for her to do that. But you know, 2 to 3 is more outside time or more resting time. Those are your choices from 2 to 3. So that 1 to 3 time is really supposed to be relatively chill and a break from the day, as far as a lot of brain activity going on. But and then 3 to 5 is their free electronics time, which is, you know, a significant amount of time for younger kids. Most of the time, the younger kids don't take it. They would like to play games in their rooms with their dolls or outside, or it's, you know, good sidewalk chalk time in our house, because that's the cooler side of the house. just different things. And again, a lot of times they'll pick whatever, excuse me, whatever I got out for them in the morning during that free time. They'll do that activity again, which is a lot how it works at the preschool, that we introduce those new things in the morning during group times or center play times. And then afternoon is a lot of repeat of doing that. I had some new ideas on it while I was resting and thinking, and my brain organized all my stuff. And now I want to do this again. Or I didn't play with the same group of friends, which with 4 kids in the household also happens here. And I want to play with a different group of friends doing that. So 3 to 5 is really that. 5 to 6 in our house at the moment is either bath time or you can do a helping job for somebody. And this really hasn't happened yet, but my goal is that they are kind of looking stuff up for people to help in the world and how they can help do stuff on a bigger scale. And so those will probably be more multi um, day projects or things, but we really haven't had much extra time at 5 p.m. They have, really, it's either been the bath time or shower time starting to happen, or we've filled it with something else. It's also me making sure there's space in our schedule for the randomness of things that come up. I want to do this, then X, Y, and Z thing. We planted some plants the other day. We've had some nights of fire pits outside, and we kind of got to get that started on a different timeline and schedule than otherwise. So it just kind of lets me have that flexibility of their screens are off at that point, and I can give them, the extra time that they needed for something else. It's not, the end of the world if for some reason you do need to make the screens happen. Then later that offers that too. Sometimes we needed to accomplish things at 3, so then I can extend their other time, or the next Wednesday wasn't charged, or whatever it is. So that's my little buffer time, but it's listed on the schedule as either bath time or helping time. And then hopefully we're starting dinner by 6, and then, starting bedtime routines by 7:30, which gives them, again, some other little time. My kids take forever to eat what they need to eat, so we don't usually end up with a lot of time after that. But they're usually coming to dinner then in their pajamas because they took their bath ahead of time. And, for one reason or another, our bedtime doesn't seem to start until almost 8. But that's okay. We try to get all of the routines done then by 8:15, which usually means 8:30. But with our current not needing to be out and doing stuff and not needing to be at the table in the morning to start our stuff till 9, kids can usually get the sleep that they need. So that's all kind of our schedule of the day. That took a lot longer to get through than I thought, but so that's, how it happens. We have a lot of tele appointments at the moment for my kids, some of them up to 6 or 7 or 8. So pick some times in there to ask everybody to schedule around when I could. So their 10 o'clock time, their 1 o'clock time, and their 4 o'clock time. Kind of don't interrupt everybody else doing something if they need to have an appointment. So we tried to stick with that. Hasn't been 100% successful, but it's close, and it seems to work out okay. Woo. Really, I'm sleepy this morning. And then there's things that come up. So, we went fishing yesterday, unsuccessful fishing, but fishing nonetheless. And, we left at 11 o'clock in the morning to do that, and we didn't get back till 3. So we just kind of skipped all of those things. But because the kids know what the point of each of those things are and the reason behind all of those, I'm able to then kind of enforce that later. So rest time happened later because we missed that, but we need rest for our bodies. So then, some of the kids had to miss the other activities that are later because we have talked through that. So again, offering kids why, and then you can add those things in, but because we didn't get to them, allows you to have some of that other kinds of flexibility. The kids have lists of things that they need to accomplish for their academic goals, particularly again, those older kids. So then they had to complete those since we missed, some of those times, really just the 1 o'clock time. But so if they know why, then it offers you, much more flexibility. You have to be genuine in your why, otherwise you can't really stick to it or it doesn't make sense. But sometimes also explain to kids that like the why or rest time or the what did we skip the other day that they were super surprised I let them skip. As long as we're doing it most of the time, then that's the goal. So we're doing it every day. Then if we miss one, it's not a huge deal. I think we were talking about the kinds of foods to eat. They eat their proteins and their vegetables at most meals in order to move on to the other kinds of foods that they might want more of. And they were like, but there's not very much protein. was, oh, excuse me, something like a macaroni and cheese where, it was just the cheese or something that wasn't just very much protein. And they were like, well, why can't we do it all the time? So we have to talk through why most of the time is an acceptable amount, but that means that we're following through and doing our part of the bargain most of the time. So if you can come up with the why, and you can kind of offer those real life information about why you want to change, then that's kind of the deal. So that is our daily schedule and some information. Feel free to send any questions if you want or things to answer. Um, and yeah, that's my spiel for the day. So I will probably be doing quite a few longer spiels now with some other topics. Um, and I'll just try to keep interjecting or kind of making some more fun videos later in the days. But as you can see, we have a very packed schedule, and I am still trying to get to everything that I promised you guys for the schools. On the connecting parents front, I've done a lot of research on apps and other things, and I think we're going to just end up making some closed Facebook groups. And I say just, but that's an endeavor within itself. So we will start getting on that. There'll be one for each school, so a yellow school one, and an alliance one, and a blue school one. And so we'll start inviting you guys to those things. And the point of that is just so you can talk with other parents and, arrange virtual play dates if you want to, or those kind of things. So I'd like everybody who can, who feels comfortable, to give it a try. And we can see what kind of connections we can make. And then if we want to expand to some other kinds of apps, or once we see how we use it, we could do that. But I think that's the conclusion of my research. So we'll start getting on that for connecting you guys. I hope everybody is having a good day out there, or in there, I guess I should say. And again, miss you guys all so much. And thank you for being a part of our Young People's family. And we will see you soon.